Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today, as this is a Monday podcast episode where we dive deep into a particular astrological topic or theme. And today we're going to discuss the energetics of Pluto in Aquarius as it will interact and work with the various Pluto generations. So that means we're going to look at how Pluto in Aquarius is going to be working with each of the Pluto signs, and we will start with Pluto in Cancer and go all the way to the Pluto in Capricorn generations. So this will span over 100 years of Pluto signs, and I realize that there might not be very many listeners who have Pluto in Cancer, but I think it's important to include that in this understanding so that we can see how the Earth and how we have continued to evolve, what has come up over the last number of generations. Also to understand that Pluto is moving at a faster speed right now in its elliptical orbit. And I do want to start by touching on that a little bit more. So it takes Pluto about 248 years to make a complete orbit around the sun. And Pluto will stay in one particular astrological sign anywhere from 12 to about 32 years. So that is a wide difference in the amount of time it spends in a sign. So when we go back to when Pluto was last in Aries, that was 1822 to 1852, 30 years in the early to mid 19th century. Then Pluto was in Taurus, 1852 to 1883, also for 31 years. Then Pluto entered Gemini, 1882 to 1914. So here we have, across 92 years, Pluto only moving through 3 astrological signs. And so this is powerful to understand, because when Pluto was in that phase of its elliptical orbit, it took much longer to move through each of those astrological signs, which meant it took more time at each degree point, and it was doing deeper, more intense work from, let's say, 1822 until 1914. Again, it only covered 3 astrology signs. Then, as Pluto moved through the 20th century, the amount of time it spent in each astrological sign started to decrease, which means that Pluto, with its elongated orbit, started to spend less time in each sign and move faster through each sign. Now, this is important because it also relates to how changes on our planet have sped up, how the transformational process has increased. It has felt like we've had more coming up, especially in the last 100 years. We've had more that Pluto has been digging into, pulling out from the depths, showing us, revealing deeper truths. Pluto wants us to go into the depths, not only of energies, but of our subconscious, of our physical world, of our everyday experiences. Pluto wants us to evolve and continue to look at how we can essentially power up. What can be evolved and transformed into a higher state? What is a better fit energetically? And these are the things that astrology explores so that we can understand our part, our individual piece of this grand puzzle. Now, Pluto in your astrology chart, by sign and house placement, signifies where you are here to do some deep soul work in this lifetime. And often with Pluto, we face fears. We have to look at the fears of the unknown, the fears of being powerless, the fears of the shadow, of the emotional body. Pluto requires us to dig into that, and it's truly a beautiful gift. It's beautiful that it's a way to elevate our consciousness, to understand more of what we're capable of, to dig into what has been hidden or what we haven't truly seen so that it's no longer operating in the background. It's no longer unconscious programming. Rather, we're making it conscious. So this is important to understand because as Pluto has moved through the other astrology signs, especially in the 20th century, Pluto has spent less time in each sign, has required more growth, more empowerment, more deep, intense changes, and have also been connected to the energies of the generations. And at this time on the planet, it is believed that there are 7 generations. Now, those 7 generations would include those born in the very early years and decades of the 20th century, those individuals being referred to as the greatest generation. In astrology, we can also sync these up with Pluto in various astrology signs, which I'll be doing. I'll be making those connections here. So what we want to understand then is how each of these Pluto generations will experience and feel the Pluto in Aquarius experiences. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is acceleration, fast moving, more technology. It's taking us beyond what's been known. It's a quantum leap in consciousness. It can be quite chaotic, but also very creative, very exciting. Many people are going to feel alive with these energies, like they're pulsing at a different rate. They're pulsing at a different speed. There's momentum here. It also is going to feel like life starts to move faster. Ideas spring to life. New breakthroughs come through, new technologies, new opportunities. There is an energy here where Aquarius wants us to live differently, to experience ourselves in new ways, to go into new territory, new realms, new levels of higher understanding. And at the same time, when Pluto enters a sign, a new astrology sign, typically there is chaos. There is a grand shift in the energy spectrum. There is more that breaks up or breaks down. I have done already for you a few podcasts on this topic, so I'm not going to go into it in this show, but it's important to understand that Pluto in Aquarius is going to break down things that are no longer suitable and no longer effective. It's also going to reveal what has been disempowered. And so as Pluto has moved into Aquarius for a short span of time back in 2023, that was March to June 2023, there was a rise in power to the people. However, in order for that to truly manifest, then the people have to be aware of how they've been disempowered. And that's what Pluto reveals first. Pluto will bring up the dark underbelly, the fears, what's uncomfortable, what we didn't want to acknowledge, what we didn't want to see. Pluto digs deep into those shadows and wants us to understand the deeper systems that have been operating. And systems is an Aquarian theme. Aquarius is how multiple complex systems, structures, and patterns come together to create the whole. And so it does have the energy of a pinnacle because Aquarius is one of the final signs in the zodiac wheel before the energy moves into Pisces, which is about dissolving, unraveling, transcending, completing. So the Aquarius energies bring us into some type of peak understanding of these various patterns and systems and energies that have been on the planet and affecting the collective. And so Pluto reveals what's really been going on, what's really been operating behind the scenes. And of course, we are already seeing that. It's already coming out. We have already had movies and topics on things that are operating on this planet. We've had revelations about client lists. We've had things coming through around what's going on behind various governments, industries, corporations. So this Pluto in Aquarius energy is showing us what we need to acknowledge in order to move into that place of empowerment. So at first, Pluto is disempowerment. It's destruction. It removes and demolishes, but it does so with intention. This is deep, powerful work. This is the tower collapsing. This is the energy of destroying what is no longer for the best and highest good of humanity, of the collective, and for the individuals. But it means that cold, hard truths have to be acknowledged. Fears have to be looked at straight in the eye. Things have to be seen in order to understand what we don't want to repeat, where we don't want history to repeat itself. And this is where it is effective for Pluto to come in and basically tear things down to the ground so that there is a new foundation to build upon. So Pluto moving into Aquarius will continue to highlight these themes, these areas of corruption, reveal secrets, stir the pot on controversial topics, permanently change experiences on our planet that are ready for an upgrade. Pluto is a catalyzer, and it does so by working through intensity, our emotional body, looking at what fears have been running through us, what fears and control mechanisms have been operating. Also asking us to look at where have we not readily claimed more of our powerful energy? What have we left on the table that now we're ready to say, no, this is mine, and I will operate from this part of my energy as well. And Aquarius is wanting to take us beyond what we thought was possible. So it also brings up new life goals, new ways of living on this planet, really wanting us to be creative with our resources, with what we can do, what's available to us now, to look at things beyond what we've known and to trust those downloads, to trust what is arriving that is also expanding you into those new potentials that you can make a reality. So Pluto in Aquarius is going to be very dynamic. So now let's take a look at how this energy is going to interact with each of the Pluto generations. So I did want to start with Pluto in Cancer, as that energy was unfolding from 1914 until 1939. Now this is known as the silent generation. Pluto in Cancer would have been deeply connected to the family, to roots, to national borders and security. Cancer being the energy of the home, where we feel safe, where we go at the end of the day to retreat. And Pluto in the sign would have brought up, what are we sharing to form deeper connections? How do we form those deeper, more solid connections, even amongst all of the changes, chaos, and uncertainty that Pluto brings up? How do I feel emotionally safe in a world that can feel quite traumatic at times? And of course, this is the generation who grew up during World War II. This is the generation who also experienced war at a more personal level. And that is Cancer. It's how you personally feel. It's really the trauma that is ingrained from those types of traumatic life experiences that change the trajectory of your life. So the Pluto in Cancer generation actually would have just completed their own Pluto opposition from Pluto in Capricorn. So this would have been a very powerful turning point in one's journey. For those of you who perhaps have elders, family members who were born with Pluto in Cancer, the Pluto in Capricorn opposition that they underwent from 2008 until 2023, 2024 was really showing them more of what was going on in the world. Perhaps people they had trusted, because Cancer wants to trust, but Pluto in Cancer can be hesitant to trust. Are they safe? Do I know them? Where do they come from? Who is their family? Well, the opposition from Pluto in Capricorn perhaps would have brought up some hard truths around power, structures, those in charge and in hierarchy, how business has changed in their lifetime, what they've witnessed in the world from where they began when they were younger to what is now being seen, and all the connections, basically how big the world is and how overwhelming that could be. So experiencing a Pluto opposition is very rare. And it's important to note that because I'm going to talk next about the Pluto in Leo generation, the baby boomers, who are now going to have their Pluto opposition with this Pluto in Aquarius. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, remember that it took Pluto over 90 years just to move through Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. So this lifetime, if you are having a Pluto opposition to your natal Pluto in this lifetime, there's a lot at a soul level and at a collective level that you are deeply completing, transforming, facing. This brings up fears for you to look at in this lifetime that pertains to other lifetimes, other karmic habits and karmic patterns. And that's the first thing that comes up when I look at this Pluto in Leo energy. This would be the generation born from 1939 to 1958. And keep in mind that because Pluto goes back and forth, you were born in 1959 and you had Pluto. So just trust whatever's in your chart more so than these actual years I'm giving you. But the Pluto in Leo generation is going to have some very big, perhaps overwhelming oppositional forces that they feel from the Pluto in Aquarius energies that challenge your leadership, that challenge how you've done things, that challenge your creative process and what you want to experience. Now, Leo is the energy ruled by the sun. Leo is warmth, light, creativity, being a leader, being in charge. You had to stand up and take charge of something when you were growing up. It was on you. You were the one who maybe had to get the first job, to start the first business. Maybe you felt like, I will take this on and I will lead this somewhere. There is a powerful confidence with the Pluto in Leo generation where you saw how the world changed after World War II and you decided, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to do something that will make my family proud, that will make me proud of myself. I'm going to use my gifts in a whole new way. I'm going to do something that's good for not only my energy, but to demonstrate that we are now powerful, we are strong. What are we going to do going forward? Because that Pluto in Leo energy is a force and it wants to use that force to create, to have some amazing experiences, to use your talents in a way that bring about recognition, where you can feel good at what you are offering and also feel strong in yourself. Now, with this opposition coming up from Pluto in Aquarius that will be happening 2024 to 2044, the opposition here is going to be a challenge to baby boomers who have not evolved into the new ways. And this is where you could feel like a dinosaur with all the technology. And Pluto in Aquarius is only going to bring about more technology, more things that unfold, more things that we are going to be implementing into our lives, into our daily worlds. And this could feel ridiculous. It could feel too much. It could feel like, wow, I wasn't prepared for this. You could also be thinking, I didn't think I'd live to see the day where this would be my reality, where I would have a talking refrigerator, or I would have something scanning my brain to look at my creativity or what I want to make. So there's going to be almost like this intrusion into your personal energy field that's going to be uncomfortable. It could feel like a violation. It could feel like, no, I don't want this. I don't need this. I've lived this many years on this planet without that thing. I don't want any more of it. It could feel like the world is moving too fast and you don't have a place to go. Where do I go with my gifts? What do I do with all these decades and years of experience? And you could feel like what you offer has expired. It's no longer relevant. You could feel like the way you've done things is not of interest to people. And that could be true. That could be true. I mean, you could already be feeling that with millennials and Generation Z, is that these kids don't have any idea what I've built, how far we've come, what I grew from the ground up. So the Pluto in Leo baby boomers are going to have a struggle with their internal power and how you maintain a sense of self in these big worldly developments that could feel like you're just lost in the crowd. You're no longer respected or honored. I know this has already been happening for a while. There is ageism out there. There are people who won't hire based on your age, who aren't looking for your skill sets. So there is a strong regenerative potential here. And that would be the key word I would offer you, regenerative, where you need to regenerate in a way that is true for you, but is also understanding how the world is different now and how it's going to continue to do so at a fast pace. This is as simple as looking at, your passions, your hobbies, things you've always turned to because they make you happy. And now you could say, well, gosh, all of this is now on the computer. All of this is in technology. Like instead of picking up a paintbrush and dipping it into that pot of paint, now you go onto a tablet and you use your finger to paint. So there's something here where you could also have this deep resistance, and that can be a beautiful thing where you're like, I'm not going to paint on a tablet. I'm going to paint with my hands and my fingers on this beautiful 3D tangible product. And that would be something to direct your energy towards. So know that the Pluto in Leo generation, because you're having this very rare opposition from Pluto in Aquarius that not everybody has in their lifetime. There's something that you are being forced/pushed to evolve. And because these are fixed signs, you can be so stubborn and resistant and say, I'm not going to have it. I don't want to. So there will be things to assess. What do you give up? What do you now integrate into your life in the name of convenience? And so that you understand and know that some of these technologies can be beneficial to you. And then there are going to be other things that you will dig in your heels and say, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. That isn't part of who I am. I have no interest in that. So this can also create a deeper divide where the baby boomers, the Pluto and Leo generation feels that divide, feels that separation. And this could be something where you feel it as a freedom or you feel it as being left behind, perhaps both. It could also be an opportunity for you to look at, how do I use my skills now? Where is my value in this new world? And that can be an ongoing, unwinding question. And I guess basically this is not an easy transit. Now, keep in mind that because, again, you're fixed signs, there's a strong energy here of not wanting to move with the times. And that could be a beautiful opportunity. That could be something where you're also doing a great job at protecting or understanding what is essential amongst these big world changes, because Leo is heart. And it's wanting to maintain the heart connections, the human connections, not wanting everything to be on a screen, not wanting everything to be a part of our electronic lives. This also relates to your connections to your children and your grandchildren, wanting to see them perhaps not only on FaceTime, but in person, and maintaining that human heart-to-heart connection. And I would say that is one of the big directives for Pluto and Leo, maintaining the heart, maintaining what it means to be human and what it means to create, and to not allow things that might seem exciting and sexy and innovative at first to take over the human experience, to take over the things that we find joy in. So I do believe this is going to be one of the biggest generations affected by Pluto in Aquarius. Now, next up is the early Gen X. So this would be Pluto in Virgo from 1958 till about 1972. And this is early Gen X because we also have Pluto in Libra, that is late Gen X. But the Pluto in Virgo generation, you have just had Pluto in Capricorn trining your Pluto in Virgo. And that is always a time of a life transformation. It's a positive unfolding of events, new places you're meant to go with your skills, your expertise, your work, new areas to venture out into. And this is where maybe you took on the role of becoming an entrepreneur. You left the safety of a particular industry or profession to embark out on your own. This is where Pluto in Virgo is the energy of learning to work on a daily basis in a new way. And Virgo brings in our health, lifestyle, habits, what we need to take care of our energy systems, what it means to also feel satisfaction in the work we do, how we can show up with our skill set and know that it's going to be useful. You could be a specialist. You could be good at doing things for others, because the Virgo generation also wants to offer something, wants to contribute. Pluto in Virgo is about what can I do that will support other people. There is a natural inquisitiveness with Virgo. There's the ability to get into detailed information. There is also a focus on how can various solutions work for me. So as Pluto in Capricorn was previously trining your natal Pluto in Virgo, and for many of you, it also was working with your Uranus in Virgo, it was supporting you in powering up a new way of showing up in the world, a new way to do business, a new way to offer your gifts or to be of service, something that would have honored your expertise, your years of experience, a new way to stand in your mastery and to know that this is what I'm good at. This is what I can offer because I'm strong, not only in these Virgo qualities of wanting to do a good job, wanting to be of assistance, wanting to improve people's lives, but also wanting to know who I am through my work, through my ability to take what I know and use it with wisdom, with clarity, with expertise. So generally speaking, Pluto in Capricorn would have been very good for those born with Pluto in Virgo. Now, as the energy shifts into Aquarius, again, it speeds up and it becomes more complicated. And your Pluto in Virgo expertise could feel overwhelmed by options, by what to do next, where it used to be so simple. And now it seems like I have to do this. I need to do that. It's like you could feel like there's more multitasking that you need to incorporate. And it could all feel overwhelming because Pluto in Virgo ultimately wants to keep things simple, linear, straightforward. And now we're bringing in all these quantum energies of Pluto in Aquarius that ramps it up. And this is where the Pluto in Virgo generation is meant to really look at what is useful here. What is true for me? What is still something I can offer to the collective, which is Aquarius, but I can offer it in a way that maybe is tailor-made. It fits a person, it fits their lifestyle. It doesn't have to work for everybody. And that can be something that troubles Virgo because the Aquarius energies are about the bigger collective, but Virgo is more focused on the everyday, the mundane. This is what is effective. There is patience with Virgo. There is planning. You could feel like I've put together all this work. I've done all this planning. I know my business plan, or I figured out a really solid way to live my life. And then here comes these Pluto and Aquarius energies that throw it up into the air. Someone younger than me is doing better than me. They have more answers, but they don't have the work experience I have. And so I feel like this Pluto in Aquarius is actually going to push you into new solutions, new ways of offering what you know, new ways of working with information. And that will be one of your strengths, information, because Virgo and Aquarius both have that as part of their strong suit. You might need to really learn some new technologies and get into some new areas that you didn't think you'd go. But ultimately, that Pluto in Aquarius is going to show you the bigger picture, the bigger picture of where you could go with what you do, what you offer. I also feel like this Pluto in Virgo is going to be easily overwhelmed and will need to continue to simplify and to not look at all of it, to not feel like you have to do it all or take it all in. Rather, come back to who you are. Come back to what you're good at, that speaks to you, that lights you up. And don't think you have to be everything to everyone. Rather, this is where you could feel like, okay, this is where my journey has taken me. This is what I've learned through the Pluto in Capricorn years that strengthened me, that gave me more to work with, to implement, new structures in my life, new ways of enjoying who I am on the planet, and to find solid ground in that, rather than to get lost in all the potentials that perhaps aren't a good fit for you. So Pluto in Aquarius doesn't have much in common with Pluto in Virgo, but what they do share is the energy of information. And whereas that Pluto in Virgo generation wants it to be clear, 1, 2, 3, here's the process, here's what I'm going to do, it's going to look much more convoluted and complex in the Pluto in Aquarius years. So this means you will be alternating between what works for me now, but I also am aware of what is evolving, what is changing, where things are going, and how to pick and choose what I will integrate, what I will lean into, or what I will move towards that is a good fit for me. So that Pluto in Virgo generation, you will want to continue to be discerning and know that you don't have to do all the technologies. You don't have to do all the things that are going on. You're going to continue to trust with discernment what speaks to your body, what speaks to your skill set, and your expertise. Now, Pluto in Libra. This would be those born from about 1972 to 1984, give or take a year, depending on when you were born, since Pluto moves back and forth when it's changing signs. So this would be the late Gen X and even the early millennials. Pluto in Libra, you are coming into your Pluto trine. As Pluto in Aquarius, an air sign will trine your natal Pluto in Libra, and this is often a time of empowerment, transformation, and significant life changes based on where you want to go. So this is going to ramp up your relationships and your friendships, and that could certainly be welcomed after you've just had your Pluto square from Pluto in Capricorn. So everyone has a Pluto square, typically in their mid to late 30s. Again, it does depend on how fast Pluto is moving through each astrology sign. But the Pluto in Libra generation just had that Pluto in Capricorn square that forced you to make permanent changes in your life. And it's very uncomfortable. It's not something you choose. It's something that is required. And it can feel powerless, which is part of these Pluto themes. But after you make those changes, after those endings occur, then we have a Pluto trine. So now you're going to have new ways of building connections, building relationships. Pluto in Libra is deeply shifting connections and bringing up what's fair. Now, these are also the individuals who were latchkey kids, who perhaps experienced divorce, and who had that Pluto in Libra effect play out through their childhood. So you grew up with a different understanding of relationships, and there could be a very inquisitive nature here to relationships. This is the deep dive into what's a healthy relationship. What are good friendships? What do I bring to the table? What is my trauma? What do I need to understand about my attachment style? This is all Pluto in Libra themes. And so all of this is now going to be strengthened as Pluto in Aquarius will be trining your natal Pluto and showing you more people, groups, and soul tribes that you're ready to meet and connect with. This could feel like a revival to your social life. This could be meeting new people in a way that just seems to open up and flow. It could also be that however that Pluto in Capricorn square forced relationship changes for you, now it puts you on a higher trajectory with those of similar frequency and like mind. So the Pluto in Libra generation is going to have an abundance or even more opportunities to meet, to connect, to interact, and to do so based on what you've learned about yourself, what you've learned about how healthy relationships work. And Pluto is also about truth. So it's owning your truth, the truth of your experiences, the truth of what has shaped you into who you are today, and how you then offer that in connections and show up to form partnerships and relationships with others. There can also be connected to this a sense of fairness, of justice, of balance. This could be that you then have connections that are in more balance than ever before in your life, that there is an honoring of self as there is an honoring of others. So again, this is going to be a good transit for those who have Pluto in Libra, as it's going to help you go further with connections in your life and also open you up to more people in the world that you're meant to interact with. Then we move to the generation born with Pluto in Scorpio, and that was transiting from 1984 until about 1995, and these would be the early millennials. The things with these generation names is that they always kind of vary, right? Like you'll have different groupings at different years. So Pluto in Scorpio is millennials. And this means you are going to be experiencing your Pluto square, where Pluto in Aquarius is going to square your Pluto in Scorpio. Again, this happens for most people in their mid-30s. So this is going to change your values. This is going to require you to look at what you've invested in, your finances. This is about relationships that are healthy or unhealthy. This is looking at where the universe is going to require some pivotal life changes so that you are on a truer, more authentic trajectory based on who you are. So with the Pluto square, life changes come about that cannot be stopped. They're permanent. It changes something in your sense of self. It also is going to change what you trust and how you trust. It's going to ask you to be more resourceful, to look at what you're here to do in the world, where you have more gifts that have been untapped. There could be something here too where you're looking at some very intense energies in your life, because the Pluto in Scorpio generation really digs in to the intensity of human experiences, not only emotionally, but financially, sexually, psychologically. So this is a generation that's here to have a deeper experience than most. And you also are going to move through more phases of change and transformation than others. So you are in for a deeper dive that will also bring up more karmic energies, more in your soul history, more to clear out and work through. You might even feel like you need more time alone, or you just want to have more time and space to process and feel these energies as they arise for you. Pluto in Aquarius is going to want detachment, is going to want you to take a look at the bigger picture, to not overly rely on the emotional body, to not be stuck in fears, but rather to step back and look at where are you going from here. What will open up because of this deep transformation? But that doesn't reveal itself right away. It's after the Pluto square completes that you start to see more of what's possible as you meet more parts of yourself that have been dormant or unconscious. So Pluto in Aquarius is going to be working very deeply with Pluto in Scorpio, and it's going to show you new parts of the world. It's going to show you new parts of human nature. It's going to show you more of who you are in the world at large. So this is where you can look in your chart at where you have your natal Pluto in Scorpio, and then wherever transiting Pluto in Aquarius is where you're going to have new information, new ways of connecting with the world, new things that expand you intellectually. Certainly more passions, more interests, more things that you want to research, more areas that you want to pursue or dig into that weren't previously available to you. So for example, this could signify a significant change in your career where you change industries or you go to a whole new area of interest that requires you to learn it quickly, to get up to date, to go into even more of that database of knowledge. So the Pluto in Scorpio generation, this is where you're going to have very big life changes that can also feel all or nothing. And that would be another prime theme here, especially with Scorpio. Scorpio is all or nothing. And because this is happening in the fixed signs, it's going to mean that some clear lines in the sand will have to be selected. You'll have to do all of this or leave all of that behind. You'll have to move over there. You'll have to make this choice. So these can be big energies. They really can, which is true for everyone when they have a Pluto square, but especially for those with Pluto in Scorpio, because you have signed up for a more intense understanding of your soul potential in this lifetime. Then we move on to the Pluto in Sagittarius generation, which was born 1995 till about 2008. These are the mid to late millennials, as well as some Gen Z. And this Pluto in Aquarius is going to light you up, is going to expand you, is going to show you more of what you came in with to experience. There will be new adventures. There'll be new expansive opportunities. This is where you could discover an industry, a job, something that excites you. You'll be equipped to work with electronics, technology, new sciences. You'll be ready to go and up for the adventure. This is a very independent energy. Pluto in Aquarius, sextiling Pluto in Sagittarius, is going to show you what you can do on your own, how you can stand on your own in the world, and also where you are signing up to follow things through, where you're ready to continue to show up, to not just do something for a little bit or dabble over here and then run out the back door. This is looking for a commitment, and this is also looking for you to be open to what you're ready to learn in a new way. You might be ready to take on more knowledge, to study topics you never thought you'd be interested in. This is where you could also feel that you're rising in your sense of self, that you're coming of age, essentially, in this new world, and you're understanding more of where you fit in, of what calls to you, of what you want to experience. This can be great for friendships, for networks, for socializing, for moving about the world, for doing things in a way that just lights you up. This is where you could feel like the wind is at your back and that there's opportunities available to you for the first time in your life. So the Pluto in Sagittarius generation is going to feel ready to go, especially after what they've lived through growing up with these Pluto in Capricorn energies. You're going to feel like finally it's my time. And this is the case for everyone when they have transiting Pluto sextiling their natal Pluto. You are coming of age. You are going to pass through some important milestones as Pluto moves through Aquarius. There's things that you're going to just be ready for. And again, those doors are going to open and you're going to expand with these energies. So definitely make the most of it and look at what shows up for you, where you want to go, and what is calling to you. Then finally, we have Pluto in Capricorn, where Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008 and it's completing its reign here in 2023, 2024. This is the generation known as Generation Alpha. And these are the individuals who have lived through the COVID pandemic, the Great Recession. These are the energies that have lived through what has fallen apart during Saturn conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. And these are the individuals who are understanding more about the complexities of the world at large. They've seen different forms of leadership. They've been aware of, even at a daily level, school bullying, which is Pluto in Capricorn, and how you use force and might to get your way. So this is the generation that's grown up in those energies. This is also a generation that wants to build, wants to be industrious, wants to be enterprising. And as they continue to mature and grow during the Pluto in Aquarius years, they're going to have new understandings of what they can do in the world. The Pluto in Capricorn generation is going to potentially be overwhelmed by how big the world is, by everything that's out there, everything that's going on. They could even be going through some very significant friendship themes with Pluto in Aquarius. And that's actually what I would highlight, especially depending on how old your child is. When they were born during Pluto in Capricorn, friendship changes. What does that look like? What does that mean? That also involves team sports, areas of group interest, what they do after school, what that looks like. Is it healthy for them? Is it true for them? Is it good for their energy? Many kids born in Generation Alpha are actually highly sensitive and highly evolved, and they are past some of these dynamics that we've associated with young children. In fact, they're here to show us new ways of being in the world, sharing our gifts, and showing up. So the Pluto in Capricorn generation is going to be undergoing some very big friendship changes, relational themes, and understanding their place in the world over the next 20 years. And they are going to need to trust themselves, to be given space to understand who they are, support for standing up for who they are. Of course, it will depend on each person's chart. So I'm only speaking about this through the lens of Pluto and Capricorn. But ultimately, they are going to be the ones who help rebuild what has been demolished and taken down, what has been challenged and is no longer effective. They are gaining a lot of wisdom about human nature. They are gaining a lot of insights about technology. They're growing up with all this technology. And of course, this does bring in social media, the internet, everything happening online, and how detrimental that is to mental health. So these are the kids where we really need to be aware of what is intruding on them, what's going on in their minds, where they're understanding what matters and what doesn't matter, where they can get support. There's also going to be a requirement for more boundaries and for understanding the limits of social media, the limits of having access to the internet, even more so than what is already happening, because they are being formed by a much bigger world. And it's deeply affecting them in very negative ways. I mean, this relates to an increase in the suicide rates. This relates to an increase in mental health issues and not feeling good enough with who they are. I feel like with these Pluto in Aquarius years, the Pluto in Capricorn generation is going to be overwhelmed, and they're going to really need a safe place to go where they can be seen, where they can develop their talents. It's almost like needing smaller local tribes, needing to go to a place where they can be, I feel it as a cocoon of protection where they're not overwhelmed by the outside world. They're also not overwhelmed by adult issues, adult matters, things that should not be affecting a 10-year-old, right? That's something where they need protection. They need boundaries around that. Now, of course, there are ways of having healthy discussions about what's going on in the world, but then there's also matters that should not be affecting young kids or teenagers yet. So that is going to be one of the big issues here with the Pluto and Capricorn generation, is the overwhelming amount of information that they are processing. that they are living with, that they are surrounded by, and how that affects their sense of self in both negative and positive ways. So with this quick rundown of these Pluto generations, I hope it's given you some insights into what you are experiencing, to what your parents might be experiencing, to what your kids or grandkids are going to be going through, as well as seeing how the world is going to be evolving very quickly. We're going to have so much more on our minds in front of us, choices to make, and we're going to need to balance it with coming back to ourselves, coming back to understanding what we want to choose, what is correct for me, what empowers me, what is for my best and highest good, where am I overextending my energy out into the world, and where do I need to retract it to maintain a healthy sense of self, a healthy sense of self-knowingness that continues to walk with me on this path. So these are very big energies. And of course, this is a big topic, but I hope that something in this podcast spoke to you, validated you, perhaps even affirmed something you were already sensing or feeling would come up for you during the Pluto in Aquarius years ahead. Do check out my other podcasts on this topic, as Pluto is quite deep and requires us to go into our own depth of wisdom to understand more of ourselves at this time on the planet. So as always, I'll be back with another podcast episode for you every Wednesday and Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. And please check out my current astrology courses if you want to learn more about these energies in your chart and in your life. I offer an introductory astrology course where you can start to learn your chart. I offer various transiting courses where you can see what's going on in your chart. And I offer courses on relationships, on your solar return, on your progress chart, and more. So I'll put those links below this episode here. Otherwise, I look forward to connecting with you again soon, wishing you a beautiful day ahead, and I'll see you back here soon.